Okay, so Revelation chapter 21. Revelation 21. Pre-ultimate, we're almost done. And as I stated, this is going to be one of those things that you enjoy reading. You look forward to. You know when sometimes you get ready, you're getting ready to go on vacation, or you're getting ready to do something that you really like, and they have like a brochure or outline or a itinerary that you get, and you just look at it and you just look forward to, oh wow, this is going to be good. I'm gonna have a good time, or whatever the case may be. And this is kind of like that. We read this chapter and we're gonna look at what we got, what God has prepared. Remember when Jesus said, "Behold, I go prepare a place for you, that where I am, there you may be also." Mm-hmm. This is part of that. And then there's some words and phraseology and some statements in here that we got to really try to dissect and understand, because I think it's important that we just don't gloss over it, that we know what it actually is saying. And I think we get a lot of that. So let's take a quick listen to Revelation 21.
Chapter 21. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, Behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and God himself shall be with them, and be their God. And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. And he that sat upon the throne said, Behold, I make all things new. And he said unto me, Write, for these words are true and faithful. And he said unto me, It is done. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. I will give unto him that is athirst of the fountain of the water of life freely. He that overcometh shall inherit all things, and I will be his God, and he shall be my son. But the fearful and unbelieving, and the abominable, and murderers, and whoremongers, and sorcerers, and idolaters, and all liars, shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. And there came unto me one of the seven angels which had the seven vials full of the seven last plagues, and talked with me, saying, Come hither, I will shew thee the bride, the Lamb's wife. And he carried me away in the spirit to a great and high mountain, and shewed me that great city, the holy Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God, having the glory of God. And her light was like unto a stone most precious, even like a jasper stone, clear as crystal, and had a wall great and high, and had 12 gates, and at the gates 12 angels, and names written thereon, which are the names of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. On the east 3 gates, on the north 3 gates, on the south 3 gates, and on the west 3 gates. And the wall of the city had 12 foundations, and in them the names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. And he that talked with me had a golden reed to measure the city, and the gates thereof, and the wall thereof. And the city lieth 4 square, and the length is as large as the breadth. And he measured the city with the reed 12,000 furlongs. The length and the breadth and the height of it are equal. And he measured the wall thereof 144 cubits, according to the measure of a man, that is, of the angel. And the building of the wall of it was of jasper, and the city was pure gold, like unto clear glass. And the foundations of the wall of the city were garnished with all manner of precious stones. The first foundation was jasper, the second sapphire, the third a chalcedony, the fourth an emerald, the fifth sardonyx, the sixth sardius, the seventh chrysolite, the eighth beryl, the ninth a topaz, the 10th chrysoprasus, the 11th a jacinth, the 12th an amethyst. And the 12 gates were 12 pearls, every several gate was of 1 pearl, and the street of the city was pure gold, as it were transparent glass. And I saw no temple therein, for the Lord God Almighty and the Lamb are the temple of it. And the city had no need of the sun, neither of the moon, to shine in it. For the glory of God did lighten it, and the Lamb is the light thereof. And the nations of them which are saved shall walk in the light of it, and the kings of the earth do bring their glory and honor into it. And the gates of it shall not be shut at all by day, for there shall be no night there. And they shall bring the glory and honor of the nations into it. And there shall in no wise enter into it anything that defileth, neither whatsoever worketh abomination, or maketh a lie, but they which are written in the Lamb's book of life.
All right. Once again, this is a very beautiful chapter in giving us a description of what it is we got to look forward to as followers of the Lord Jesus Christ. One of the things that, before we get into this chapter, I'm going to tell you about the world we live in now. All things in this world become old. Everything becomes old. You buy a new car, after a while, guess what you got to do? You got to wash it. Why you got to wash it? Because it got some dirt on it. Now, when you bought it, it was shining. You ride it for a couple of weeks, got to get the tires. They looked all good. After a while, they wear out. And the engine's running all nice, but that oil in the engine was crystal clear. Now the oil in the engine start to get a little tarnished. You got to do what? You got to change it. Right? Same thing about buy a brand new pair of shoes. Look nice. Go outside and wear them to get dirt on them, all scuffed up. Gets old. Right? You were born. You were a brand new baby. You don't remember, but they fondled over you. Ooh, look how cute. They did all that stuff like we do over babies ourselves. But look at us now. Alright, so in this world where we live in now, things become old. And that is just a outcome of the continuous degrading of the system that we're in. We're living in a sinful world, and everything in it breaks down. In physics, there's a thing called the weak nuclear force, and it's the releasing of certain radioactive particles that make things happen. That's why things like iron, as strong as iron is, it does what? It rusts because it's starting to break down. And so there is an understanding of the world that we live in, and we have made preparations and plans, and we've made all types of conditions so that we can operate in a world where things get old. Keep that in mind, and we're going to come back and visit that in a minute. And let's start taking a look at what we see here. Let's look at the first verse. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth. Now you just read that, you just think, well, it's new because it was just made. Okay, and I can say, okay, you could come to that conclusion. But I'm going to throw this out there. And we're going to, as we go along, we'll see how my theory holds up. When it says new, it ain't saying new just because it was just made. It's new because there is no deterioration in it. This earth will not deteriorate like how the earth we live in now will. All things will be what? New. Now we'll see that in a minute. I'm giving some of that away. The eternal body that we have, is it going to be, oh, my body's getting a little old now? That ain't going to be part of the conversation that we're going to have. It's going to always be what? New. And sometimes we don't think about that and how different this world that we're going to live in, this new dimensional reality that we will exist in eternity, living with the Lord, will be. It's not where things decay and rot. Things will be what? New. And I think it's hard to conceive that sometime in our mind, what that means and how that affects so many things. But it's important to have that thought because it helps bring an understanding of how wonderful this place is and why we want to be there. what we got to look forward to. So I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth were what? Passed away.
Right.
Why did they pass away? Because they became old. It was just, that's why we pass away. We get old and we pass away. But then when we pass away, if we know the Lord, we become what? New again. Right? And there was no more sea. Right? So it didn't have to have any more sea. The sea is interesting about the sea. The sea has, when you talk about the sea, you're talking about the salt water. And with the sea being salt water, one of the most that has the most volume in the salt water is the fact that it has salt. So it contains, that's the word I'm looking for. The salt water contains a lot of salt. Salt does what? It helps to slow down the rotting and the decay of certain elements, especially flesh. All right, but there's no need for it to have. And you think of our planet. Our planet is filled. It's more sea than it is land. So that sea that has all that salt in it, it helps slow down the decay, but it doesn't stop the decay. What did Jesus say that we ought to be? It's the salt of the earth, to help slow down the rot that's in this place. That's why he wants us to be the salt. But he's going to come and he's going to make all things new. And then when he makes all things new, there's no need for the sea, that salt water body. Because there's not going to be any rot. It's only going to be new. All right, let's keep going. And I, John, saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem. All right, so he saw this city coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride. It looked like, you know how a bride looks when they come? Well, this is how the city looked. That means that we talked about this before. When a bride comes out, there's something about that particular moment, that particular day. When she comes out, everything's got to be what? Just right. You can't have nothing out. The hair got to be right. Everything, all the ornaments, the rings, the necklaces, everything, the dress, everything's got to be just right for that particular moment. Well, when John saw the city, he said the city was so, when you looked at it, you were so dazzled, it looked like a bride coming. You know, when you look at the bride, you go, wow, look how beautiful it is. That's how you would look at the city. And that was the description. He goes, what do you gawk at and go, wow, look at how you do that when you see a bride come. Wow, look at her, she looks beautiful. Same thing. Wow, look at that city. The city is like, and it takes your breath away. It's like, wow, a city can look like that. You know, when I was doing this study, I was listening to J. Vernon McGee, and he's kind of comical. I'm sure you guys heard of him. And he said that when he had to do a wedding, he said one thing. He said he's never seen an ugly bride. He said every bride he's ever seen was beautiful. He said, now if you see them before the wedding, he said, but you begin to wonder. He goes, well, boy, I sure hope they can get it together. And he said, but by the time they get all the stuff together, and she comes down, you go, wow, they did it. She looks wonderful. And he said he's never failed to be amazed at how they can make anybody look wonderful on that day. You know, and I had to laugh at that. You know, but that's how John is describing it. It's like this is a bride adorned for her husband. That's how this city's coming down. In other words, it's coming down with everything to make the believer in the Lord Jesus go, wow. All right. Verse 3. And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, behold, the tabernacle of God is with men. Look at that. The tabernacle, the place where God dwells, is also has who dwelling there?
Men.
That's right. We will be there. People, the believers in the Lord, will dwell there as well. And he will dwell with them. And they shall be his people, and God himself shall be with them and be their God. So now we got first hand just right there with the Lord. Remember when Moses asked the Lord to show me himself? He said, I can't show you. You can't see me. But now we're right there. We're dwelling with him. We're right there. And a more clearer and a more perfect revelation of who God is. I think we still will never be able to comprehend all of who he is, but we'll be able to get a more detailed, informed perception of who God is and what he is and how he is, but still never exhausting who and what and how he is. Verse 4, and God shall wipe away all tears, all right, from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain. Y'all hear that? Pain? You wake up and go, ooh, no more pain. And why do you wake up with pain? Because we live in a world where all things become what? Old. All right, no more pain. For the former things are passed away. Those things that operate in the world that we live in, they have gone away. They're no longer here. Right? So therefore we don't have that aspect of pain and anguish and heartache and worry and all that. It doesn't exist there. It's not happening there. This is good stuff, ain't it?
Amen.
Look forward to this. Verse 5. And he that sat upon the throne said, behold, I make all things what?
New.
How many things?
All.
So if he makes all things new, guess what they always are?
New.
Always new. And you say, well, what do you mean by that? Well, it's hard for me to explain it, but I would throw out a hypothesis here. I would gather that there's nobody in the New Jerusalem dusting. I don't think there's no need to dust. I don't think that nobody in the New Jerusalem is going to have to be cutting grass, because the grass is always going to be just the way it's supposed to be. And I don't know if we're going to have the need to have repair shops. So when you think about always new, it's hard to grasp it. And one of the things that you see here is John trying to get us in the realm, in this three-dimensional realm where things become old. His best way of describing how things are is by telling us what's not there. There's no more tears. Well, what does it mean, no more tears? There's no more pain. Well, is there a word or is there an experience that you can have where that defines no more pain? We would never know what that is. We can't grasp that because we live in a world where pain is real and is always present. The only thing we can call it is something like painless. So we have to use the word for the negative to describe the good. So he had to say no more pain, or we would say painless or without pain. How does a world exist where there is no more reason to cry? What is that called? We don't have that word. So therefore we got to say there are no more tears. So you can see we're going to be living in a world that we can't even still describe. The only way we can describe it is by telling us what it doesn't have. And then experiencing the stuff that it actually is something that we cannot really fathom yet. We still can't grasp it, but we can understand what it won't have. And that's the best we can do for now. But when we get there, we're going to be able to go, wow, maybe then we'll have a word for it. What was it, 5? Mm-hmm. And he that sat upon the throne said, behold, I make all things new. And he said unto me, write, for these words are true and faithful. So when he said, behold, I make all things new, he told John, he said, you write that down. Because this is true and it's faithful. You are not going to live in a world of decay. This is not a world where things become old. This is not the world where things get broken and get fixed. This is the world where all things become new. All things are new. And that's different than the world we're living in now, for sure. 6. And he said unto me, it is done. You remember another phrase like that? When Jesus was on the cross, he said, it is what? Finished. So now he's saying, it is done. And we saw that also in Revelation when they were, after Babylon was destroyed, he said, it is finished. Right, so that was the other one. So now it is done. All right. What is done? I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. I will give unto him that is athirst of the fountain of the waters of life freely. So, when you say thirst, that means somebody that has a strong need and desire for something. When you are dehydrated or you're thirsty, you have a strong desire plus a need. Because if you don't get it, if you're dehydrated, you can be in some trouble. But then you also crave it. All right, and that's what thirst is. And so he says that when you get here, you'll see it, and you'll have such a strong need and desire for what God has prepared. He goes, but you can have it freely. It's there for you. You don't have to worry, because there is no worry. You don't have to be, well, I wonder if I'm going to miss out. I wonder if it's going to be gone before it don't matter. You are not going to have any concerns like that. We're going to get into that again, because one of the things people have, people now are frantic. I don't know what happened, whether they do the thing to yesterday or today or whatever about that Powerball. That thing getting up to $1 billion. People are going up, and and why would you want $1 billion? Because if you got $1 billion, you feel that a lot of your work, a lot of your worries, it would disappear. But the thing about it is, not all of them, because some worries that you didn't have, you now got. You got to worry about walking down the street now. Because they're going to know who you are. And that the guy that won $1 billion? Yeah, that's the guy.
It's not true. But from my husband's sister people didn't know, but just her family. What she did was she hired a lawyer. And she didn't want to be public, nothing like that. And she's living good. Down in Florida. But what she did, she cashed in down in Florida and paid so much up here.
Right.
She's living good.
But that's one of the reasons why people want that. It's because you feel, well, this is greater than any lottery, Powerball, Mega Millions. This is taking care of every aspect. All right? There is no worry. There is no concern. You can just drink of this water, of this fountain freely. Just come and grab it. All right? Verse 7. He that overcometh shall inherit all things. He that overcometh. That's an important, because you remember when Jesus gave the parable of the sower that sowed the seed? Some fell by the wayside, right? And what happened to that seed? The birds came and ate it. So there was seed sown in the heart. That person didn't overcome because the seed didn't even take root. Then he said some fell by the stony ground. The seed took root, but it didn't take any depth of root. And when the sun came up, it scorched it. And Jesus said, these people are people that are easily offended, and when trouble and temptation come, they fall away. So they receive the word, allow some of the word to germinate in their heart, but they don't endure to the what? To the end. And it said that some of the seed fell near the thorns and the thistles, and it grew and it took root, but the thorns and the thistles over time choked it out, and it was never able to bring any fruit. So there are a lot of people that work in the things of God, work and deal with church and the Bible and worship and all this other. They're in a churchy atmosphere, but do not have the ability and the love for the Lord to endure to the end. And if you don't endure to the end, you're not saved. That's an important thing to keep in mind. There's a lot of people that are involved in biblical things, but are not going to endure to the end. That's what happened with Judas. He was involved with the Lord. He was there, but he did not endure to the end. And you have to make it to the end. And guess what? If you love the Lord and your hand is in his hand and he's holding you, you will make it to the end. You will get there. But if you don't have the true love in your heart, if your real concern is about other things, you won't make it. No matter how good it seems you look. And one of the things that Jesus said when he said that the people will come to them kind of shocked. Lord, didn't we do all these wonderful works in your name? And he said, depart from me, you worker of iniquity. I never knew you. And that's a key phrase that he uses. Because he didn't say, well, I used to know you and then you left. Or I used to know you and you turned your back on me. He says, I never knew you. Because the Lord knows that he just said up here, I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the what? And the end. So when you start out trying to love the Lord in a certain way, he knows how you start, exactly how you're going to what?
Finish.
Exactly. So he's never fooled. He's never confused. The Lord is never going to be like, oh, I thought he was going to make it. The Lord knows. So you have to do what? You have to endure to the end. Right? And that's an important aspect. Peter endured to the end, although he had a lot of what? He had a lot of ups and downs. He denied the Lord, but he denied the Lord because of the fear of the people, not because of his lack of trust in who God is. It's a big difference. Judas, he just went ahead and he said, well, there's no hope for me now because the Lord can't do nothing for me now. Yes, he could have. But, Judas being the son of perdition did what he did. All right? So he that overcometh shall inherit all things, and I will be his God, and he shall be my son. It's important to keep in mind. Verse 8. But the fearful and the unbelieving and the abominable and the murderers, and the whoremongers and sorcerers and idolaters and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. All right. Now you look at the list of the people that the characteristics that are here. What's the first one listed? Fearful. And what's the second one listed? Unbelieving. That's an important thing to keep in mind. Because see, one of the reasons why you fear, and you know what? And I found out something today. Let's see if we got enough time to deal with that. Let's go to Matthew 24 real quick. See, I found out. I'm kind of thinking about this over the past couple of days. I said, we need to make sure that we understand. We'll hit this a lot more detail when we go through the life of Christ. And I'm just going to read chapter 24. We'll start right at the first verse. And I'm just going to read this real quick, and then we're going to make a little statement, and then we'll get back to Revelation. It says, and Jesus went out and departed from the temple. So he was in the temple, and his disciples came to him for to show him the buildings of the temple. So once they come out of the temple, the disciples come to him. They're looking at how wonderful the temple looked. But now we're looking at which temple? We're looking at the New Jerusalem, even a greater building. And they're talking about how great this building is. All right, let's keep reading. Verse 2. And Jesus said unto them, see ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. This building is built in a world that is what? Old. So things what? Break. Right? And then in this case, the building's going to be actually destroyed by man's efforts. Right? Where this New Jerusalem, nobody's going to be able to destroy that. Right? So this is a nice little parallel. But let's keep reading. You see some more parallels here. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, tell us when these things be. Now, look at the questions that they ask. Tell us when shall these things be? Question 1, right? What shall be the sign of thy coming? Question 2. And of the end of the world? Question 3. So they asked Jesus 3 questions. And this is what Jesus, how he responded. Look at his response to the 3 questions. And Jesus answered and said unto him, according to these 3 questions you asked me, the first thing you need to be concerned about is what? Take heed that no man deceive you. So what he's saying, those 3 questions you asked me, number 1, it's going to be a lot of deception, a lot of false propaganda about this, about the coming of the Lord, about the end of the age, and the destruction of the old system or that old temple. And he says, now, what kind of deception? Look at verse 5. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ. All right, and we think about, okay, yes, that's the Antichrist. He's going to come. But there are also denominations that say that they are Christ. Like the Mormons say that they have a Jesus, and the Jesus that they believe is the Jesus that's the brother of Satan. That's not the Jesus I serve. They believe that Jesus and Satan were brothers, and that Jesus had a plan to do to save man, and Satan had a plan, and Satan's plan was rejected, and Jesus' plan was accepted. Jehovah's Witnesses have a view of who Jesus is, but it's a false Jesus. They say that Jesus is an angel, but that's not the Jesus that we serve. So it's a false Jesus. It's not the Jesus. So he said, many shall come and shall deceive many. All right. But he said, take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. All right, so he says, now one of the things that you're going to do, you're going to hear. Now, this is still part of that, don't be deceived. All right? He says, you're going to hear wars and rumors of wars. Now, look what he says here. See that ye be not, what? Troubled. So he said, when you hear of wars and rumors of wars, don't get troubled. Why? All right, and then he goes on. He says, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Now, every time we hear of a war, people start talking about what? It's the end of the world. This is the end of the age. And what did Jesus say? That's part of the deception. And why would the enemy want us to be deceived that when we hear wars, that's the sign that it's the end of the age? Because it produces what? Fear. But what did he tell us up here? He said, you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled. Don't let that. Now, all of that is part of that. So before he can even answer it, and we'll get further deeper into this when we go through the life of Christ, the next section that we're going to do after we finish the Revelation. But when he answered the question, he said, before I can even answer the question, let you know of the stuff that they're going to try to shove down your throat, that they're going to try to tell you about. And have they been successful? Yes, they have. Every time there's a new war, when they had the Gulf War, all these books came out about why this is the end of the age. This is a sign of the time. Mm-hmm. Now, he did say nation will rise up against nation, but that's a little different than wars and rumors of wars. There's a slight difference in that, and we'll explain that a little later when we get back into that. But let's go back to Revelation. I wanted to bring that out because he don't want us to have what? That fear. Because why? If you believe and trust in Jesus, how many times, and we'll see this when we go through the life of Christ, how many times did Jesus say, fear not, don't be afraid, don't worry? He tells us, he gave us a parable. He said, look at the sparrow and how he goes. And your heavenly Father feeds him. He said, look at the lily of the field. And he's trying to get us not to worry. And man, that is a paradigm shift in how we think. Because we've been taught as from little children to worry about certain things. Be concerned about this, worry sure about that. And make sure that you got you're all set for your Social Security. And make sure you got your bank accounts right. And make sure you got, this and all the stuff that we worry about. So we'll deal with that a lot more when we get into. But if you can see here in this 8th verse, he said, but the fearful and the unbelieving and the abominable. And he lists that out as the first two. If you are fearful, then you obviously are not believing in the Lord. If you believe in the Lord the way we ought to, it should eliminate our fears. And therein is the spiritual exercise that we need to be working on every day. Lord, how can I trust you enough so that I have no more anxiety? Lord, how can I trust you enough so that my fears are overcome by my faith? There is an exercise that we need to work on a daily basis. God, give me that strength to be able to do that. And I say amen to that. I have to continue to work on that and continue to develop that. But I thank God that he's allowing us to see that that's something that we can move to, that we can get to. We can begin to really just eliminate and reduce our fear and continuously strengthen our faith and trust in him. All right? But he looks into all these people that are in murders and that's and whoremongers, and that's the way that our world is. Sorcerers, people that are able to alter and change people's moods and perceptions, and we get that happening all the time. We could talk about how dealing with drugs, because one of the words for sorcery is pharmakia. So, and that's dealing with the aspects of mood altering drugs, and also how we can alter people's mood by enticements. That's what Balaam did. And he told him, he said, I can't, when Balak wanted to curse the children of Israel, and he said, I can't curse a people who God has blessed, but I can tell you how you can get them to curse themselves. Take those women from Moab, the Moabitess women, they all looking all beautiful, and have them parade and walk themselves around the camps of the Israelites, and they will lust after them, and they will marry them and commit adultery with them, and then the Lord will be angry with them. So all of that is part of how the devil works. But the devil has been thrown into the lake of fire. He's no longer here at this particular point as we read this. He was let loose a little bit during the millennial reign, but then he was gathered back up and thrown in. All right. And so now we don't have all that produced, and it's not part of what we experience. And all these different things are no longer there. They don't exist. None of those types of feelings will come into this place. This is New Jerusalem, new heaven, new earth. Verse 9. And there came unto me out one of the seven angels which had the seven vials. This is one of the angels that poured one of the vials on the earth when we went through that. Full of the seven last plagues, and talked with me, saying, Come hither, and I will show thee the bride of the Lamb. Show you the bride, the Lamb's wife. So he's going to show you the adornment that because when the bride walks down, the bride has on the outfit. That's why she's the what? The bride. All right. Before she puts the outfit on, she's not the what? She's not the bride. After she takes the outfit on, she's the wife. But while she has it on, she's the bride. And so this is our adornment. That's why it said up here, it comes down as a bride adorned for her husband. It said that in verse 2. All right, verse 10. And he carried me away in the spirit. All right. And where is he at? He's in the spirit, because he's looking at this thing from a spiritual. Because that's the realm we're going to live in. We're not going to be living in this natural realm. It's a different dimension we're going to be in. So physics and reality of how things operate will be different. And we're going to see that in a minute here. So he took me away in the spirit to a great and high mountain, and showed me the great city, the holy Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God, having the glory of God, and her light was like unto the stone most precious, even like jasper stone, clear as crystal. All right, so he's having the glory of God. I mean, it's just there. Just going through the glory of God like we go through air. Just living in the glory of God. You know, it's hard to explain. I don't know how that is. I just know that it's a glorious thing. 12. And had a wall great and high, and had 12 gates, and at the gates 12 angels. So we see the city had 12 gates, and there were 12 angels. and the names written thereon, which are the names of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. So each of these gates. Now, what are these gates? What happens when you open the gate and walk through? What does that do? Where are you going? Well, you see, you're going into the New Jerusalem. Well, but where? And to what? I mean, once you're there, aren't you there? Why you need 12 gates? Can't you just open up one gate and go in? We're in the spirit. You see, and that's the thing you got to keep in mind. You see, when we walk into this door, we walk in, we come in here. We come into this room. All right? And no matter where you put the door, when you come in, guess where you are? In this room. See, in the spirit, it's a little different. Because there's a different reality of I'm just going to say, of space. So you can be in one area, but be in a different dimensional space. Now you say, well, what do you mean? Well, let me give you an example. Remember when Jesus appeared to the disciples? And he said, lo, I'm with you what? Always. Everybody kind of uses the phrase, well, he walked through the walls. And I don't like that phrase. He was able to walk through walls and come into their being. He didn't have to walk through the walls. He was always there. Because he said, lo, I'm always what? With you. So he didn't have to come to where they were. He was already there. But what he did was he just moved out of the space. He came through one of the gates of where you can't see me when I'm in this realm, that spiritual realm. But if I come out of that spiritual realm and just show myself in the natural realm, you'll be able to see me. Which is why he can say, even now, lo, I'm with you what?
All.
And he said, where two or three are gathered in my name just to talk and do what we're doing now, he says, I'm where? There in the midst. So does that mean that right now, right while we're talking, that he's here?
Yeah.
Of course he is. We can't see him because he's in the what?
He's in the spirit.
And that's where John's in the spirit looking at the city. And he said, in order to see all the different flavors and the spatial dimensionality of this city, you need 12 gates to be able to get to all of it. So it's more than just what meets the eye, the natural eye. It's a spiritual thing. There's 12 gates. And the gates were named after the 12 tribes.
The Bible says the natural eye. It talks about the natural eye. And then the spiritual eye.
And the spiritual eye. That's right. 'Cause you can't, the spiritual eye can see the spiritual thing. The natural eye cannot. All right. So each one of those gates were named after one of the tribes of the children of Israel. And on the east there were 3 gates, and on the north 3 gates, and on the south 3 gates, and on the west 3 gates. And on the wall of the city were 12 foundations. 12 foundations. All right, so wait a minute. Now we dealt with the gates, but then we're dealing with foundations. And what do you do? A foundation is something that you build something on.
That's right.
But wait a minute. How many foundations does your house have? One. That's all it needs. Because once you got a foundation, you build on it.
Right.
This city has what? 12 foundations. Why? Because there's things built on areas that are different and separate from the area that the other foundation is. But yet they're all what? They're all together. They're all one. 12 gates and 12 foundations is all one. So you see, that's why I said he had to take him where? In the spirit to go see this. Right? And so the wall of the city had 12 foundations, and in them the names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. So they were named, all those foundations were named after the apostles. So, no, eyes have not seen, ears have not heard the things which God has prepared for them that love him. We can't totally understand how we could be on this foundation, but then there's another foundation that's supporting a whole other room. Well, where is it? It's right here. What do you mean it's right here? Oh, it's right here. You just got to get in the spirit and you can dwell in it. Oh, so I can get in the spirit, I can go into the other one? Well, no, you can go into one of the other ones. Well, what do you mean one of the other ones? Well, there's 12 of them. 12 of them? Yeah. But then even after you go into all the foundations, you can go into one of those foundations and you can go to another gate. And you can get into another realm. Well, wait a minute. What do you mean going to another gate? Well, because you can go out that door and come in another door and you in the same, but I'm in a different place. No, you're in the same place. You're still in New Jerusalem. But it's just a different dimensionality of reality. And then you start scratching your head and you go, wow. And that's kind of like after a while, that's what I end up doing. because that's how vast the spiritual realm is. Yes,
He
sir.
talks about the heaven too, you know, like, well, I thought heaven was heaven, but then he says the heaven. Well, when I get there, I'm in heaven, but now he says the heavens. So
Heavens.
which heaven? Then he says something about the third heaven. You know, so
There's multiple aspects of it.
it's God.
And when we get there, we're gonna be like, wow, because we cannot. That's why he tells us that the natural man can't comprehend the things in the spirit. We cannot do it because why we can't? Because we can't even see it. We can't fathom it, but it's there, and you're gonna be going, wow. Nobody's gonna be in heaven talking about, well, I thought it'd be a little better than this. Nobody's gonna be in heaven talking about that. Everybody's gonna be in heaven like, did you see? Oh my goodness! You know, it's gonna be. Nobody's gonna be in heaven. Well, I thought I'd have something a little nicer than. They ain't gonna have that. It's gonna be. Everybody's gonna be in awe of what is going on. All right. And he that talked with me had a golden reed to measure the city and the gates thereof, and the walls thereof, and the city lieth four square, and the length is as large as the breadth. And he measured the city with the reed 12,000 furlongs. That's like 1,500 miles. You know, when you look at that. So that's like from here to Florida. All right, just as far as you can measure it with a natural measurement. So now he's measuring it with something that we can relate to. We understand a measurement. We understand a reed. He ain't measuring it in the spirit. He said from a natural standpoint, this is how it would look. But remember, we just got finished looking at it, looking at the interior from a spiritual standpoint. All right. So from a natural standpoint, it's like, okay, yeah, it's about as big as from here to Florida, but it's also that long, it's also that wide, it's also that high. It's a big city. All right. So the length and the breadth and the height are equal. All right. So the length, the breadth, and the height, all of them are 12,000 furlongs or 1,500 miles. And he measured the walls thereof 144 cubits, according to the measure of a man, that is of the angel. And the building of the wall of it was of jasper, and the city was of what? Pure gold. The wall was made of jasper, the city was made of pure gold, like unto clear glass. Now, there's a few studies out there that break down all the different properties of different gems. Like, what is the property of an emerald? What is the property of a sapphire? What's the property of jasper stone? We'd be here forever if I did that. But if you wanted to do that, you could go on online and you could type that in. You could just take each one of these stones. What's the properties of it? What does it mean? And you can get some insight as to why these stones are mentioned as part of the construction material that produced this city. But one thing we can say is that all of these emeralds are able to capture and allow light to come in and pass through each one of these things. And so, just how God is in us, each one of these building materials are able to allow the light, natural light, and so we could assume and infer that it also allows the light of God to come in it. So the building itself has God in it, just like we have God in it. Each one of these stones have that ability to absorb and to take in light. All right? And that's the part I think is the most important part of all of these different stones. All right? Verse 19. The foundation of the wall of the city was garnished with all manner of precious stones. The first foundation was of jasper, the second of sapphire, the third of chalcedony, and the fourth of emerald, the fifth of onyx, the sixth of sardis, the seventh of chrysolite, the eighth of beryl, the ninth of topaz, the 10th of chrysoprasus, the 11th of jacinthus, the 12th of Thias, and forgive me for the mispronunciations. Amethyst. All right, 21. Now, the thing we can keep in mind, these are all gems that allow the passage of light and allow light to do a light play in it. So it can the gem has a color because of what light it traps and other lights that it allows to reflect. So an emerald is green because it absorbs all the light spectrum, the colors of this light spectrum, and reflects the green. So therefore it looks what? Green. Because that's the light that it reflects. All the rest of the light it contains and absorbs. The same thing with a sapphire. Sapphire is usually what? Red or ruby, right? Oh, not a ruby.
No, it's a ruby.
A ruby.
No. It's a sapphire. No, ruby is a red.
Ruby is red.
Sapphire is like a royal blue.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
royal
Right, blue. Right.
It's like
right.
your birthstone.
Right. You're right. It is
You
a
go
blue.
to the store, you can see the birthstone. Like your birthstone.
Right. Right. She's right. The sapphire is it's like a light blue. She's correct.
Break it down, Philo.
And so, but each one of those, the color that you see is the color that it doesn't absorb. It's the color that it reflects. And so, I mean, there's a lot we could go into that. But like I said, you could spend a lot of time going through that. I think I'd rather just wait and see, because that's how we're going to really understand it. Because we're not going to understand it trying to just break that down like that. I look at that and I go, that's a lot of words, but I still come away with going, okay, but what does that mean really? I just know that when we get there, we're going to be going, wow. 21. And the 12 gates were 12 pearls. Every several gate was of one pearl. And so let's deal with the pearl before we get to the street. A pearl is something that we see today that is made out of pain to an oyster. When it has a grain of sand that gets in its mouth, it secretes a film that goes around that grain of sand, and it keeps building, and it produces this pearl. All right. So this is what these gates are made out of, and is that symbolic? I think it can be. Because it says in the 12th verse, it says the 12 gates were of 12 pearls, but they had the names of the 12 tribes of Israel. All right. Which I find interesting because they saw the oyster as a unclean animal. All right, but the pearl aspect of it just represents the aspect that it was built on pain, but then turned into what? Something glorious. Jesus' salvation to us cost him what? Pain. But it ended up being what? Glorious. And something we can keep in mind. All right. It says, and the streets of the city was pure gold, as it were transparent glass. All right, now, I have never seen any gold like that, but we'll see when we get there. 22. And I saw no temple therein, for the Lord God Almighty and the Lamb are the temple of it. So no reason to have a place of worship, a place to go to, because God is always there. He's everywhere, and you worship just because you're there. You don't have to go to worship. You are always, and really that aspect we have even today. That's one of the beauty of God saying, "I'm what? Always with you," and being filled with the Spirit of God. Meaning that you don't have to go somewhere to experience the presence of God. Amen. He says, "Lo, I'm always with you." All right, and we actually have the ability to exercise that even now. 23. And the city had no need of the sun, neither of the moon. All right, so it didn't need the sun and didn't need the moon. Why? For the glory of God did lighten it. All right, and it says, and the Lamb is the light thereof. So our light doesn't come from an external source. Our light comes from the God that created all things. So it's like a light. It's a different type of perception. And it's hard to explain that we don't need to have in order for me to see you, I have to have either light bulbs or the sun. Otherwise, I can't see you, because you can't see anybody without light. So it's, well, when it's dark, no. Sometimes when it's dark, there's still a little dimmer light. I'm talking about when there is no light. You can't see anybody.
Like down south.
It's dark there. Even darker than that, though, because you won't even get the light from the stars. You get nothing. But yeah, it's down south dark like, but even worse, even darker than that. But when you don't have light, you can't perceive from a visual standpoint anything. Well, what this is saying is that we don't need a third party. We will be able to perceive because God is the light, but God dwells what? In us. So we have perception without the need of the sun or the moon to help reflect the light off of somebody so we can see them. Don't need no light bulbs.
No.
You are light. But then didn't Jesus say that that's what we're supposed to be? He said you are the light of the world. So that's what we're supposed to be anyway. Right? So it says the Lamb is the light therein. 24. And the nations of them which are saved shall walk in the light of it. All right, so we're walking in the light of who? The light of the Lord. The light of the Lamb. All right, and it says, and the kings of the earth do bring their glory and honor to it. So the kings of the earth, remember, he's making a new heaven and a new earth, and he also showed us the new Jerusalem. So now, on the new earth, there are nations and what? And kings. And they come to the new Jerusalem to bring what? To bring glory and honor unto it. All right? So they bring their glory and their honor. So they're coming in, doing whatever it is that shows you, we are thankful for this new Jerusalem. We're glad the new Jerusalem is here. We're thankful for God. We're thankful for His presence. Whatever these kings are doing, whatever that festival is all about, that's where they're going to be doing it at. They're going to come to the new Jerusalem. All right? 25. And the gates of it shall not be shut at all by day, for there shall be no night therein. All right, so the gates are never shut. They're not shut by day, and there is no night, so you don't have to, it's getting dark, better close the gates. It's not that kind of situation. So it's always open. All right, 26. And they shall bring the glory and honor of the nations unto it. So the kings will bring their glory and honor to it, and so shall the nations. Going there and just being honored that this is that God has provided this, that He has this, and these are people that are living on the earth, eternal people living on the earth. And I heard somebody once say they are eternal natural people, and it could be, but I just like calling them eternal people because I don't know if they're going to be what is. They're eternal earth-dwelling people. But I don't want to call them natural because when I think of natural, I think about how our natural world is today. But remember, it's a new heaven and a new earth. So it's those new earth dwellers. That's what I like to call them. And they're going to come to the new Jerusalem and show and give honor unto the new Jerusalem and unto God. 27. And there shall be in no wise, let me read that again. And there shall in no wise enter into it anything that defileth, neither whatsoever worketh abomination, or maketh a lie, but they which are written in the Lamb's book of life. So, if your name was not written in the Lamb's book of life, you're not going to see this. You're not going to experience this. So he's letting you know that nobody that has any of those abominations, that maketh a lie, that has anything defiled, nobody will enter into it. It's going to be a perfect place. Why? Because this is new heaven, new earth, new Jerusalem. None of that old stuff is coming in there. Jesus told us that. He said, no man taketh an old garment and patches it with what? With a new patch. He says because they'll both get destroyed. They both will win. And nobody pours new wine into old bottles. So when things are new, guess what? Everything's going to be new, and it's always going to be new. And that's the aspect and the beauty of what I see here is that there will be no need to say, well, it's getting old now. Nothing gets old. Can you imagine that? Living forever and nothing gets old? They got a taste of that in the wilderness. They walked through the wilderness for 40 years and their shoes never wore out. Got a little taste of it. So he showed us little glimpses. But in the new heaven, no such thing. Oh man, I tell you, like you get a computer and then 2 years later it ain't worth nothing. It's old. Somebody says, well man, I can't. You got to get a new one. You got to get it updated. Everything. No need for all that. There's no need for all that. Everything's going to be new.
Put some more memory in there.
So it's important that we recognize how beautiful it's going to be. How wonderful. All right. And but the only thing I can say is, you say, well, can you explain to me? I can't. I know. I can't. I won't even try. You know what you're going to have to do? You got to be there. You're going to have to get there. All right? And that's the best way to explain that.